Whenever you think about Russia and their strongest military partners, people usually point to China. And not likely do we ever think, hey, North Korea might be an actual major asset to Russia. But understand this. Both countries are in the perfect position to benefit one another. And in this video, we're going to talk about how all of a sudden North Korea's long-time investment of never getting involved with an armed conflict since the 50s, stockpiling all of their equipment, Soviet-era equipment, which fits perfect with the Russian military. This is the perfect time for both of these countries to work together. And again, let's go through all of this and how Russia and North Korea have managed to find the perfect storm to be best friends. Now, here's the golden question. What exactly is North Korea really going to give Russia beyond just artillery rounds? Is that all Russia wants? And what is Russia going to give North Korea? Are we just going to give them a bunch of money and there you go? No, I think it's a lot deeper than that. And I actually found a video that highlights some of the points I want to talk about.
What do you think going to get from this meeting?
Yes, I mean, the North Koreans will try to get grain out of this and food. About a quarter of North Korea's population of 26-odd million people is said by the United Nations already to be starving, and the other three-quarters are at subsistence levels. So they certainly...
Okay, so the first point of this video, Russia doesn't have to give a dime to North Korea because at the end of the day, Russia has been boasting about all of this grain and wheat and how they want to end this grain deal with Ukraine because why not buy from us, stop buying from Ukraine? I don't agree with what Russia's doing or how they're handling the grain deal, but nonetheless, again, check out this video where Russia is willing to give free grain to African countries to boast and to show how much grain they have.
Будем готовы уже в ближайшие месяцы, в ближайшие 3-4 месяца безвозмездно предоставить Буркина-Фасо, Зимбабве, Мали, Сомали, Центральноафриканской Республике, Эритрее по 25-50 тысяч тонн зерна. Обеспечим и бесплатную доставку этой продукции потребителям.
Okay, so you have Putin boasting, not only are we going to give you free grain, but we're also going to do it free of charge. Now, the perfect thing about North Korea and Russia is that this transaction will actually be a very cheap transaction compared to the Africans because understand this, North Korea and Russia are actually border countries. They attach to one another and they have means of logistic supply trains, literally trains, to get to one another. So this will actually be a cheaper transaction to give North Korea grain, wheat, food, etc., as opposed to actually just giving them a dollar amount for Soviet-era equipment.
They certainly need food, they need oil. The Russians, of course, need ammunition. Not immediately, but the Russians have probably used, maybe depending on their usage rate on a daily basis, they've probably used between 8 and 11 million artillery rounds so far in the war since February last year. And they've had stocks of maybe 20 million rounds, and they produce the best they can produce about 1 million more a year. So they...
And if there's one country in the world who has an abundance of artillery rounds, like a lot of artillery rounds, of course, North Korea has the means to provide for Russia and probably won't even make a dent within the arsenal of North Korea. Remember this, consider this. The biggest threat to South Korea is an artillery threat. It's estimated that there's over 6,000 artillery pieces pointed right at Seoul. And we're talking mass casualties. And there's absolutely nothing you can do to stop these things. No air defense is going to stop the amount of artillery rounds that could fall upon Seoul, South Korea. So this is why, again, this is the perfect partnership and why North Korea can really start to make a dent and really start to make an impact within the conflict in Ukraine. Now, again, we are not for violence on this channel. We don't want this to happen. I want the conflict to end, but I'm making this video to show you how North Korea now is sort of shifting up and moving up in the world powerhouse of countries, because this right here, again, is the perfect storm and the investment and time into all these military pieces, never getting involved with the conflict. Look, the people of North Korea are starving, but one thing they have an abundance of is weaponry, military assets that Russia could use. Now, here's the conflicting part about Russia working with North Korea. Understand this, North Korea absolutely cannot stand, hates the West. More specifically, they see the United States as enemy number one. Russia, when it comes to the United States, it's not necessarily on that level. They consider the United States as part of the West. But one thing we're starting to see here, Russia tells the US, don't lecture us over ties with North Korea. Sort of giving the tonality of United States, you need to back away from what we're doing. And North Korea is like, hey, we don't like you guys anyway, so let's work together. The head spokesman for Russia even said this. The United States, Antonov said, had built up a coalition in Asia, expanded military drills near the Korean peninsula, and was supplying billions of dollars of weapons to Ukraine. It is time for Washington to throw its economic sanctions into the rubbish dump. Maintaining the unipopular dominance so beloved by American officials is no longer possible. And again, another reason why the perfect storm for North Korea and the Russians to be working together is because they're both hit with a lot of sanctions. So at the end of the day, they don't care if even more sanctions are hit on them because who cares? Let's just work together. And also understand this, the Russians and North Koreans do have a partnership where North Koreans have work camps within Russia. North Korea gives some of the resources and money that North Korea makes from Russia. So again, they do have a partnership to where there are boots on the ground within Russia. They do have economic ties, but these ties we're talking about today, it's getting closer and closer to where these two countries are actually becoming equal superpowers to where they can both work together.
Kim Jong-un's traveling outside the country is a sign of opening up. That's one context. The other context is the whole diplomatic approach or strategic or political approach, military approach too, that the DPRK has taken since the failure of the Hanoi summit. It has become increasingly clear from DPRK statements by Kim Jong-un, that the DPRK is not prepared to enter into dialogue with the United States, that it has no intention of ending its nuclear and ballistic missile programs, and indeed intends to strengthen those and to make them ever more credible.
The other issue too here is that North Korea actually was sort of hated on and really sanctioned by the Russians and wanted North Korea to stop these launching of nukes. The only issue is this: while North Korea was over in Russia currently now, they are still testing and launching their own missiles. And at the end of the day, everyone knows this is exactly what North Korea wants. They've been boasting their new submarine that could apparently launch nukes as well. And of course, the people who have the means to do this, as far as like rocket technology, space technology, Russia is the partner to go to. Look, I am not a fan, again, of what Russia's doing, but I'm just trying to show you guys how all of this is really coming together and how I don't think anyone expected North Korea to just elevate as far as rank structures when it comes to a military superpower and superpower as a country.
The message, I think, from Putin is that he's not as isolated as the West or the liberal rules-based order following countries would like to think, and that he has a deeper reserve that he can dip into to continue carrying out the war in Ukraine. I think the message from North Korea is that they are, despite all of their problems and their own difficulties with isolation economically and otherwise, also still standing. And in some sense, arguably more powerful than they ever have been.
And of course, Russia and North Korea are really building up this whole buddy-buddy situation to show the world, look, we're now comrades, is what they're saying. Russia, North Korea summit, comrades. Putin and Kim send rivals a warning. Ooh. Whatever practical cooperation emerges from this week's summit between Russia's President Vladimir Putin and Kim Jong-un, their deepening relationship is aimed at sending their rivals a warning, said an analyst. Calling each other a comrade, the men toasted their friendship on Wednesday after Putin showed Kim around Russia's most modern space launch facility, and they had talks alongside their defense minister. So again, you have the Koreans, North Korea, and the Russians calling each other comrades. And this is the first signs and steps to a long-lasting relationship. Now, I think we love to be like, okay, so Russia's the bad guy, North Korea's the bad guy. they were friends. We like to assume they were friends, but this is not necessarily true. Again, I want to harp on this point that Russia has not always been supportive of what the North Koreans are doing alongside of China. But something else that's even deeper than this is that now North Korea has an ally who's on equal playing field and terms. They've always had the partnership with China, but China really tells North Korea exactly what to do and how to act. Because without China, North Korea is nothing. But now that North Korea has Russia, they sort of created this weird love triangle where North Korea can maybe pull away from Daddy China and start to work with Russia, because North Korea has something Russia wants, Russia has something North Korea wants. As far as China, they don't need a single thing from North Korea. You see what I'm saying here? That's why this is getting a little weird, and why China maybe at the end of the day might not like this relationship too much, because it pulls away power and strength from the Chinese. Right, so that's what's going on right now. North Korea deepening ties with Russia, threatening the United States to back off. You guys have no right to say anything. Now look, do I think North Korea is going to become like the biggest superpower ever? No, but they are on the road to creating a stable partnership and relationship, because even though both of these countries have sanctions, they're partners with the right people in China, to where China could support them with whatever they need. And Russia is also going over into Syria, going over into Africa, working with Middle Eastern countries. So Russia has their own things they can work on, and naturally, the spoils of the economy, the spoils of the military bleed into North Korea, where North Korea benefits however Russia does, and Russia benefits however North Korea does. So it's going to be interesting to see how far this partnership goes. It's also going to be interesting to see what technology North Korea gets, and if North Korea is going to actually send some boots on the ground over in Russia to help fight in this campaign. Again, I don't want that to happen. Don't get it twisted. I'm just trying to paint a picture out there of what could happen. But again, I don't want it to happen. So nonetheless, hope you guys enjoyed this video. Hope you guys learned something, and we'll see what happens with North Korea and Russia as time goes on.